Good morning. Today we'll look at numbers 17 through 19. And God is spending a lot of time visiting with Moses and Aaron, talking with them, it says, not visiting, because the Israelites have been stubborn, stiff necked, ornery people, like a lot of us, I guess. But in chapter 17, since there had been this uprising against Moses and Aaron, and these people, kind of wanting to be priests and wanting to take over some of these things. God comes up with a plan to solidify Aaron as the high priest and Aaron's sons as the priests, and so he asks for a staff, a wooden stick from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and they put the name of each tribe on there, like put Aaron and put the others all on there, and then they put all of these staffs in, and he says, "You shall place them in the tabernacle of the meeting, and it will be the rod of the man whom I choose that will blossom." And this man now and his offspring will be the priests. And the next morning they go and take these 12 staffs out, and the staff of Aaron has not only sprouted, but it has blossomed and has ripe almonds on it. That's pretty good for just overnight to have just a stick. You think about, whether it was alive or dead to start with, who knows, but um, it produced that much, and so Aaron is chosen, and Aaron's family is chosen, and so then others again come to Moses in verse 12. Surely we're going to die. We're all going to die. Whoever comes near the tabernacle is going to die. And God said, no, that's not quite the way it's going to happen. Aaron and his sons will be the priests, and they can come into the tabernacle and they can do these things. But if others come in unauthorized, then yes, they will. But as long as you do what you're supposed to be doing, we'll be good. We'll be just fine that way. And so Aaron's staff was then put in the tabernacle as a sign, and I think it was more like it was put into the Ark of the Covenant. So the tablets of stone with the 10 commandments on were in there, and there was this container of manna that was kept, for all time in there, and now the rod of Aaron with the blossoms and everything on it, and for the most part, God was the one that saw these things, but they were there. And going on then through chapter 18 talks again about the duties of the priests. We've read a lot of these duties of the priests before, and how they are to supervise, to oversee, to actually do the offerings and the burnt offerings and all of that. And then we get it to verse 8 of chapter 18. Talks about how the priests are supported. Since they don't have land, they're not raising cattle, they're not doing all of this on their own, but a portion of the offering, a portion of the other tithes and everything are for the priests, and a portion of the grain, a portion of all of these different things, and then and then the but the Levites, as well, are to give a tithe. So the priests give a tithe, and there's the with some of the law of the firstborn given to God, or given that way. They were given, and then they become the possession of God, of course, but within that, the priests are able to buy back this, other than what the cows and the goats and the sheep. They can buy back the actual children, the people. They can buy back a lot of other animals and everything, but but those, so they can purchase them back, from being designated, that way for God. And but it goes through and it talks about, it isn't just animals and livestock, but it's oil, it's grain, it's all of this that is offered to God, and so out of these tithes that the people give, um, a portion of that is for the support and the goodwill, the livelihood of the priests that way. Chapter 19 talks about the laws of purification again. And, so the Lord speaks to Moses and Aaron. This is the law. Speak to them and tell them that, bring a red heifer, which there's no defect. I mean, the things that are given to God, used for offerings, tithes in that way, are to be the best. And I think about that. Um, in so many ways, like I remember, growing up as a kid, we would put on our Sunday best for church. We had definite Sunday church clothes, we had definite school clothes, and we had definite everyday clothes, play clothes, work clothes, whatever you call them. But on Sunday, I mean, we put on our best to go to worship, and so many times, from ourselves as well, we want people to see our best. We want to put our best foot forward. We want to, do a good showing of all of that. And so for God to say to the Israelites, I want your best, he's saying that same to you and to me as well. I mean, he wants the best that we can be. And he wants us to be the best that we can be. I mean, and that's part of the reason we have these rules and these laws to live by, because they guide and they shape our lives and all of that. And so as when I first talked about the book of Leviticus, that book, even though it's hard to read an awful lot of it, and some parts of this as well, with all these laws of purification, everything going on, but this is God's way of showing his people, his chosen people, the Israelites, how to live as holy people. And when we follow what God would have us do too, it's God's way of showing us how to live as holy people. And so these laws of purification and these laws of tithes and sacrifice are all showing, the Israelites how it is that they can be the very best they can be for God. In chapter 19, these laws of purification deal a lot, maybe mostly I should say, with what happens to a person when he or she is in the presence of a dead body. Whether, some say you wake up in the morning and someone in your house has died in their sleep. I mean, it doesn't, it happens. Well, that, other people living in that house would be unclean, ceremoniously unclean, ceremonially, whatever you want, but for 7 days, for this 7 day period. And on the third day and the seventh day, the priest will, anoint them with this cleansing water, and so that, at the end of 7 days, then cleansing water and the ashes, and a certain ritual for them to become clean again, so that then they are eligible to go into the tabernacle to worship. They're eligible to be among people. And there were a lot of things that these Israelites had to do, a lot of laws and observances, and in some ways, it might seem that God's being kind of picky. God's being, but yet he's showing them how to be the very best they can be, and holy in so many ways. And there were other ways to become unclean, within a dead body. But as I was reading this, I thought about our funeral directors. I mean, they're never going to be clean, according to this. But our societies are different and everything. But it's still a part of what goes on today, and it's, so I would say, like with, the funeral directors are never going to be clean, ceremoniously, whichever that way. But God has, like for many, set them apart for this. One time I asked a person who had become a funeral director, what made you decide to be a funeral director? And he said, felt like what God wanted me to do. And I think that that's one of the blessings. If what we're doing feels like what God wants us to do, feels like makes us feel good about ourselves, whether you're farming or whether you're, whatever you may be, a nurse, a doctor, if you're doing what makes you feel good about yourself and others, I think that's where you need to be.